What if I told you? The most powerful people in the world once bowed to a man no one truly knew. A financier, a socialite, a man whose name became synonymous with wealth, power, and secrets. But behind the glitz of private jets, luxury estates, and elite circles, a darker story was unfolding. A story of exploitation, abuse, and systemic failure. This is the story of Jeffrey Epstein. From a math teacher to Wall Street elite, Epstein's charm opened doors to presidents, billionaires, and royalty. Yet behind this public persona was a vast network of sexual abuse. But this is not just a story about one man. It is about the systems that allowed him to thrive, the victims who were silenced and left to suffer, and power structures that bend the rules for the wealthy. But the real question here is, how did Jeffrey Epstein rise to such heights? In history, monsters don't crawl from shadows. They rise from ordinary rooms. And that is how Jeffrey Epstein's story began. Jeffrey Epstein was born in Brooklyn, New York on January 20, 1953. A bright, ambitious boy from a modest Jewish family. His mother, Paula, was a homemaker. His father, Seymour, worked as a Parks Department gardener. Jeffrey was strong in math from a very young age, and he also enjoyed playing the piano. He studied at NYU for 3 years but did not graduate. In 1974, Epstein began teaching math and physics at Dalton School in Manhattan. The school was attended by children of one of the wealthiest families in America, and Epstein's charm quickly became apparent. In 1976, a parent was so impressed by Epstein that he referred him to Bear Stearns CEO Alan Ace Greenberg. Soon after, Epstein left teaching and began his career in finance. By the age of 27, Epstein was Cosmopolitan's Bachelor of the Month, and also he was a limited partner at Bear Stearns. But after 1981 investigation, Epstein resigned, but his charm and connections remained intact. By 1984, Epstein became a millionaire by working as a private consultant for the ultra-wealthy. His charisma continued to attract powerful social circles. In 1988, he founded J. Epstein and Company that provided money management for billionaires. And most notably was Leslie Wexner, who was the founder of Victoria's Secret. This gave Epstein unprecedented access and wealth. It was also during this time that Epstein met Ghislaine Maxwell, daughter of media tycoon Robert Maxwell. Ghislaine had ties to the powerful and influential. But few could have imagined that she would later become one of the darkest forces in Epstein's empire of abuse. By 1990s, Epstein had built a vast network of elite contacts that included billionaires, politicians, celebrities, and even royalty. His wealth, charisma, and social reach opened doors that few could imagine, and that also gave him access to the most powerful circles in the world.
I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein.
Epstein owned multiple luxurious properties. Little St. James Island in US Virgin Islands, Great St. James Island, Manhattan Mansion, Palm Beach, Florida Mansion. He also had properties in Paris and New Mexico. Epstein traveled in unmatched style. His private Boeing 727 was called the Lolita Express. Flight logs revealed the high-profile guests who frequented his inner circle. But Epstein's wealth was more than just a ticket to the elite. It was actually a shield. To the world, Epstein was a billionaire elite. But behind closed doors, he was building an empire of exploitation. The The truth about Epstein's crimes first started coming to light in the early 2000s. He used a predatory system to find young girls, some only 14 years old, and he tricked them with promises of massage jobs or modeling work. Epstein was not alone in this. He used a group of employees and friends to help him carry out the abuse, and his closest partner was Ghislaine Maxwell, who played a key role in running this whole operation. The secret began to unravel when a worried stepmother found hidden cash that her 14-year-old daughter could not explain. She traced the money back to Epstein and told the police. This one report started an investigation that eventually found more than 30 victims, all of whom told stories of repeated trauma. And the abuse did not stop at his mansion walls. To keep everyone quiet, Epstein used his wealth to create a climate of fear. He hired private investigators to follow and watch the victims as well as their families and even the police officers working on the case. This constant stalking was a warning. Speak and face the consequences. In 2008, Epstein secured a secret deal with US Attorney Alexander Acosta. While the evidence pointed to a massive trafficking ring, the deal allowed him to plead guilty to minor state charges. He admitted only to solicitation and procuring a minor for prostitution, and therefore he avoided federal sex trafficking charges entirely. Under this sweetheart deal, Epstein received an 18-month sentence, but he served only 13 months in Palm Beach County Jail. Even then, Epstein was granted a work release, allowing him to spend 12 hours a day, 6 days a week at his own private office. Therefore, despite being a sex offender, he kept his fortune, his fame, and his high society life. The agreement also shielded his partners from ever being prosecuted. And for 11 years, this deal acted as a shield for Epstein and his partners. That shield finally shattered in 2019. In 2018, investigative reporter Julie K. Brown identified some 80 alleged survivors of sexual abuse by Epstein or his associates. Their brave accounts forced the government to reopen the case, and by 2019, federal prosecutors were ready to act. When FBI raided Epstein's Manhattan mansion, they uncovered a hidden world of evidence that proved his crimes were far from over. Inside a locked safe, agents found a vast trove of secrets his wealth had kept hidden. They discovered piles of cash, loose diamonds, and even a fake foreign passport with Epstein's photo, but a different name. What shocked them were thousands of photos of young women and girls, which served as a grim record of his abuse. The house itself was still set up for exploitation, containing the same massage rooms used in his earlier crimes. The end of Epstein's run finally came on July 6, 2019 at Teterboro Airport in New Jersey. As he stepped off his private jet from Paris, federal agents were waiting to arrest him. He was then taken into custody and held at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan. This time, his wealth wasn't enough to save him. He was denied bail and his arrest stunned the world, finally exposing the decades of abuse he had tried to buy his way out of. While awaiting trial in jail, Epstein's life came to a shocking and sudden end. On the morning of August 10, 2019, he was found hanging in his cell and was later pronounced dead. Now, while the medical examiner ruled his death a suicide, the suspicious timing and a string of major security failures triggered instant outrage and a wave of conspiracy theories across the world. The weeks leading up to his death were filled with warning signs that the prison system ignored. In late July, Epstein had been found semi-conscious with marks on his neck, leading to a brief period on suicide watch. Yet, he was quickly removed from this watch, as well as he was left in a cell all alone. On his final night, the safeguards designed to protect him vanished. His cellmate was moved out. The guards failed to check on him for hours, and the surveillance cameras outside his cell were not recording. These failures allowed Epstein to escape the judgment he had avoided for decades. If he had gone to trial and been convicted, he could have been sentenced to up to 45 years in prison. Instead, his death in custody silenced the case before he could ever be sentenced, leaving many of his victims feeling that justice had been cheated once again. Jeffrey Epstein died in his cell, but the evidence against his network continued to surface. In late 2025, the passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act forced the release of over 3.5 million pages of internal records, including flight logs, private emails, and thousands of images seized from his estates. This massive release pulled back the curtain on his global connections, and that also exposed names of billionaires and several high-ranking politicians who remained in his circle long after he was first convicted. Now, the secrets are out. The silence is over. And for those named in Epstein files, the nightmare is only just beginning. So this was the story of Jeffrey Epstein. For more such interesting videos, stay tuned with us.